All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Friday Open Studio design session. It's been a hot minute. Haven't been able to stream in the past 2 weeks, mostly due to just things outside of this hobby. Spending time with family, and things like that. Last week was Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, if you're more, I guess, mainstream and want to be more inclusive. But I wasn't able to stream last week or the week before, but I am back now. So this week I will be streaming today, and to make up for last week, I'll be streaming tomorrow too. So if you're wondering about the schedule, that's kind of how I planned it out for this week. But I'm glad to be back. My routine has been kind of disrupted in the past 2 weeks, but now it's we're coming back into the swing of things, and sometimes I do have to reschedule these streams because work commitments, mostly supporting engine production at my work. So it's a tough time. It's very high demands. You have to turn around really quick once you get the data and things like that. So work is pretty busy. So sometimes, again, like I said, sometimes I have to reschedule. So hope you guys understand. This isn't my job, unfortunately. I wish this could be. Live a simple life, just make great things, make beautiful things. But you gotta make money. So welcome back. Again, if you're just joining, I was just explaining kind of the logistics behind these past 2 weeks. I wasn't able to stream, but now we should be able to get back into the swing of things, and I'll be doing a second stream this week tomorrow to make up for last Friday. So join me if you want, and hopefully within these two streams we'll be able to hammer out, I guess. See, it's been so long I can't even talk anymore. It's just really weird. So I'm sorry if I'm being weird or awkward or anything like that, because it has been a while. So hopefully we can finish this project in these two streams, and hopefully that's we'll end up with a great final product. And it's looking pretty good so far. I've made a couple of additions in the off hours, I guess, when I'm not streaming, and I'm just gonna go through and explain some of the changes that I did to this design. It's not a lot, it's very minor things, but hopefully you'll appreciate them. So the changes that I made were mostly on the bottom of this aircraft here. So you'll notice that the fairing for the landing gear is right here. I've added some additional pieces of cardstock panel to kind of smooth out this transition here. This used to be pretty rough. You'll notice that there was another fairing down here that connects between the landing gear nacelle and the fuselage here. And this was quite a interesting corner, I would say. It's a very sharp, there's a lot of curvature, and so I wanted to really smooth that out to make the aerodynamics a little bit better. So I added this panel right here. There's a little notch right there, but it's pointy, and it gets the job done. It makes this area look a lot cleaner. I will say I did this pretty recently, I would say. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So these are new additions. And the other big change that I've made to this design were the let me just raise the exposure real quick. It seems a little dark. There we go. You can see things better. The other change that I made was I resized the vertical stabilizers for this aircraft. So right now, what we left off with last time I streamed, which was on the 1st of February, which is a long time ago, I had these two vertical stabilizers made. And if you remember, these two vertical stabilizers were very finicky. Right, they were very finicky to make and assemble because there are a lot of different parts that go into this, and the tolerances didn't quite match up sometimes. So you have these like inconsistencies in surface finish and things like that. So for this, I didn't really like the way they turned out. I mean, they're fine, but I just decided to, play it safe. I mean, this isn't going to affect the performance by, too much, in any stretch of the imagination, because, at the scale that we're dealing with, these, small, surface imperfections aren't going to play a huge role, right? Because, your vertical stabilizer is small, so even if there is flow separation, it's not terrible, right? It's fine. But the perfectionist within me decided to redo these vertical stabilizers, and I will say they did look a little bit large on the aircraft. So if you imagine this white part down here being on the plane, like geometric plane, not the aircraft plane. Let me just switch the camera real quick so you guys can see here. So this thing mounts here, and it looks absolutely massive compared to the rest of the aircraft. It looks kind of out of proportion, at least to me. You can put this white bit within this orange extension, right? Because that's kind of how I planned it out to be. But even then, it's still quite large. So I decided, why not kill two birds with one stone and redo the vertical stabilizers, and also at the same time simplify the manufacturing and design of the actual part itself, right? So what I have here, what I've done is I've remade the vertical stabilizers. Let's move that to the side here. And essentially what I have now is, I guess, these two vertical stabilizers here, and you'll notice that they're a lot cleaner because there's a lot less tape involved. I will have to tape it to make it a little bit more weatherproof, but for now it's it is what it is. It's a lot cleaner. I like this look a lot better, the white trailing edges instead of the leading edges, even though the convention is slightly different for other parts of the aircraft, right? So for this design for the M1 Astra, I'm actually paying a little bit more attention to the, I guess, the color scheme, right? And where certain structural reinforcements are, and how to distinguish those from the rest of the aircraft. And so the way I've planned it is, if we look at the actual aircraft itself, I haven't done it yet, but these wingtips here, they're still split, right? So let me just change the camera angle real quick. So you notice that they're, split open. They're not sealed up. So move back here. So they are open right now. And I plan to close them up using a reinforcement, little piece of cardstock, white cardstock that covers this. So that would have matched with this old design for the vertical stabilizer, but the way I think about it is, for the vertical stabilizer, you're not really going to impact the ground at the leading edge, right? So, I'm trying to reason my way through this right now as I go. And it actually kind of makes sense because the trailing edge is more likely to touch the ground than the leading edge of the vertical stabilizer. Because if you just imagine, right, like crashing like that, there's no way the leading edge is going to touch the ground unless it's like a very severe crash in which your vertical stabilizers are, sheared off of the mount or whatever. that would be not great. So, so the way I have it set up right now is the white is the trailing edge, which will likely touch the ground. The tips are white, right? So that means, white is parts that are going to touch the ground, right? So even the landing gear are white, right? They're surrounded, it's paper clips, right? Steel material, but it's wrapped in white, right? So, it's like a insulating layer of plastic or rubber or something. But the nose is white, the tip is going to be white when it's complete. And I'm not sure about the canards yet, because the way I designed it, the canards are supposed to be within the kind of, footprint, so to speak. So if you actually draw like a straight line, I'm just going to use a ruler to illustrate here. If you draw a straight line from the nose to the wingtip, you see how the wingtip actually is parallel to this line? That's the reasoning behind this weird shape, first of all. But also, if this is white and this is white and the canards fall within that, then in theory the canards should not touch the ground. So I don't really need it, but I might end up adding it anyways, the little white strip here. But who knows? We'll have to see, and go with the flow, kind of, so to speak. But so that's kind of my reasoning, right? So white equals parts that are going to touch the ground. So in that sense, now I also need to add white to these nacelles here for the landing gear and this front nacelle here. So just tiny detailing bits, which I might not do on camera because that's quite boring, to be honest, but I'm just trying to explain what I might do just for decoration, but also this is kind of functional. So the way I think about it is that, if it touches the ground and it's white, then it's going to, get slightly dirty or something, right? So it's like, it's good to know, like, where things are impacting. And so, in that sense, the whole aircraft should be white. But, the way I have it is the parts that are going to touch the ground are white, so that, hopefully you can keep everything white and not crash too much and, take too much dirt. Yeah, that's that. So, I know, it's been a while since I've done one of these streams, so if there are any video quality issues, do let me know. I've decided to change the main camera to 1080p. So this iPhone camera that you're viewing here from the top down, that's been changed to 1080p. So there might be a slight quality reduction, but I did that to enable a smoother stream, hopefully. Because my computer only has so much processing power combining all these video streams together. So, hopefully this is a little bit better on the overall system and produces a more smoother stream, right? So let me know if there are any audio or video issues in the chat. I greatly appreciate this feedback, and I guess we'll go from here. Benjamin Rogers says, hope your new year was fun. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I think it's now more than ever, it's important to spend time with family, right? It's a tough time in the world. It's almost been a year at this point, but I started this to really, I guess, be a little bit more social, even though if it's, through the internet. It's just good to, do something, and, put something out there, so to speak, and put good, positive, creative energy out there, even through these tough times, right? And in many ways, this pandemic has allowed me to do these streams because, I set it at 5:30 p.m. every day, and I think if I were to come home from work and I had to drive through traffic and, go through a commute like that, I don't think I would be able to, do these things because I'd be tired, first of all, and it would be 5:30 when I arrive, and setup takes like 30 minutes. So it's going to be, later. But I think I will continue, once we return back to office and everything's back to normal. But it's just, right now, uh, it's an interesting time, and I'm making the most out of it by doing these streams. So that's kind of how I feel about that. So thanks for the New Year's wishes. I really appreciate it. It's important to spend time with your folks, and yeah. So I guess continuing this project and actually making some progress today. I think what we're gonna do today is mostly integrate the landing, or not landing gear, the vertical stabilizers. Thank God, not the landing gear. But yeah, let's see. So this is gonna look a little bit better, I think. So we'll just switch the view real quick here. It's gonna look nice. So I have a little R written on the surface, on the inner surface of the right vertical stabilizer. Right, so that little R right there on the bottom edge, right? So that's gonna go right here. And from a distance from the camera off to my right, this looks a lot more proportional to the design. It's kind of hard to orient this to the camera, but I'm gonna try my best to do so. I'll take the left piece here because it's closer to the camera. Keep it in line mostly and at an angle. And so this is kind of what the aircraft will look like once it's done. I think this looks great, actually. This looks quite proportional. They're not massive, right? These vertical stabilizers aren't massive, and they don't need to be because they're mounted aft of the main wings. So it's sized proportionally to the aircraft, through looks at least. We don't know about performance until we actually test the thing, but the fact that it's behind the main wings here gives me great confidence in its effectiveness in maintaining yaw stability, right? So this is looking good. So when we integrate this, we do have to use straw. That was the planned design intent for this part right here, was that we would do a half cut and we put the surface within, right, and somehow secure it in place. So we'll figure all of that out. But also another important, it might not be important, right? Like, you might not think this is important, but because it's cosmetic, but I do want to get like a proper tail decal on. And I say decal, but I don't really know if it's gonna, I don't have like a Cricut machine, like a vinyl machine. Like I can't print anything out. It's just, for my own purposes, to mark this aircraft, to, in a couple of years time, I look back, oh, this is this aircraft. So I need some sort of markings, right, on the tail. So what I have planned is actually, I'm going to hand letter this. So some of you might know, some of you might not know, but I'm telling you guys now. But I used to take drawing lessons as a kid, which greatly helped my, I guess, design skills here. But also for these aesthetic objects, I think it's a great asset to have that kind of background. So I'm just gonna try and draw something and put it on here. And so the methodology for this is, I'm not going to draw directly on this. That would ruin kind of the structure underneath, because whenever you use a pencil on a piece of paper, what you're doing is you're crushing the fibers, right? So if you draw, like, you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? So you push your graphite lead into the paper, you dent the paper, and then when you erase, the dent is still left there. So we'll want to try and find a better way to aesthetically apply these markings, right? So the way that I've kind of done this in the past was use a kind of white background, right, and then apply a piece of tape, and we draw on that piece of tape because cellophane doesn't really dent. It's extremely thin, so, and it's very easy to erase graphite from that. So, we can do all our work on the piece of tape, right? And then when we're done, when we want to preserve that piece of tape, then we tape over that to give it an actual surface finish, right? Like a protection layer, basically. And once both of those are done, then we apply that piece of tape with the markings on it and apply it to the tail here. And so I was trying to gather some information, some background about how it has been done in real life. And I guess kind of the best source that I know of is this NASA manual, like I think it's like a style guide or something like that. It's completely free, right? You can buy physical books of it. I don't think it's that particularly useful unless you want like a coffee stand book, coffee table book, but it's available for free because NASA is a government agency funded by taxpayer money. So I'm going to share my desktop screen right now, and hopefully we can go through some of the PDF and talk about just how these decals are applied and some of the rules, right? I think it's really interesting to see a real life kind of standard set of practices, and if we try and apply that to this hobby here, it'll make it seem a little bit more real, a little bit more in tune with the rest of the world, right? So hopefully you guys understand. And all right, so this is my desktop. There's an infinite tunnel of windows here, but let me grab the PDF real quick. It's right here. So this is the NASA Graphics Standards Manual, NHB 1430.2. This was published in January 1976. Now, this was way before I was born. Yeah, this is the first page. You'll notice that it's very minimal, right? So this is very, very minimal for its time. It's very futuristic. I do very much like the NASA worm logo here. This is a very kind of futuristic take on NASA, right? It's a sans serif kind of font. It's a logo type, but the font behind it is sans serif, meaning it doesn't have these little like in Times New Roman you have like these little edges, right? So this is the first page, and it goes through the table of contents here. This is kind of an overview of what we want, but we can just scroll through here and just go through. So this is the letter, right, for the intent, I guess. This is kind of like the prologue, dedication section. So just take a look here. We've adopted a new system of graphics visual communications by which we are known to those who read our publications, see our vehicle markings and signboards and the logotype, right? So it's pleasing to the eye, gives a feeling of unity, technological precision, and thrust and orientation towards the future. And I think I really agree with that. It just looks really sleek, right? These kinds of graphics. Unity, technology, pioneering achievement, that's what NASA is all about. And I think that's part of the reason why there's so much hype around NASA, like the worm logo on a shirt or something like that. And in case you want to, wear that. And, recently I did place an order for a crew shirt like that. But I find great inspiration in these things. So it's priceless in that sense. This manual is a reference book for NASA designers. It's an official policy document regarding NASA identification, communication, and etc. So this is really intended for designers, not necessarily engineers, right? Mind you, engineers are notoriously famous, I guess, or infamous for not caring about aesthetics, but I'm one of those people who does actually care. So I think it's worthwhile to go through this second page here. It's logo type. So the way they have this document set up, this is like text, but it's like, the graphic design of this page is very interesting, right? So you have your main logo here, and you have a lot of space, white space, right? It's quite literally white, but white space refers to the blank areas of a composition, right? So might seem boring, right? I'm sorry if I am boring you guys, but this deals heavily with aesthetics, and I am not a graphic designer. I've taken a few classes in college, but I have an interest, but I'm not like a professional at this. So don't take my word for like, as a professional, but because I'm not at all by any means, but I can just kind of briefly introduce you guys to this field. This looks quite neat, right? So this font down here, I believe this is Helvetica, I want to say. It's like one of the thin or ultra thin fonts for Helvetica. It is very very sleek, very modern. This font was designed by a Swiss designer, graphic designer, back in like, I want to say like the 60s, 50s or 60s. So it's a very old font, but it looks very futuristic and timeless, right? And that's what good design tends to do. It transcends, these societal trends, like this type of font or whatever. This looks timeless. It's always going to be in fashion. It's just why I always use Arial when you make PowerPoints and Word documents and emails. My stationery for my work, like the fonts that I choose, it's all Arial or Helvetica. I type in Helvetica, but I think Microsoft actually interprets that and just uses Arial. They're essentially the same font. It's just licensing issues that prevent the name Helvetica being like used in Microsoft Suite. But that's an interesting tidbit, I guess. So you notice that down here, you have your Space Center. It's in bold, right? It's pops out a little bit. It's separated from the main body here. So it gives it hierarchy, right? So you have NASA. This is what it stands for. This is a place, a specific place, right? So people don't really necessarily need to know this because they might see this logo type and already know that NASA is NASA. But this is the location is important, so it's in bold. It's things like that. I really like the color red on white. This is very classic NASA, right? Like this red on white kind of color scheme. Unfortunately for me, my plane is gray, so I won't be able to use this color scheme. But in a future RC aircraft project or things like that where I have more design space, and if I get a vinyl cutting machine or sticker machine, whatever, this might be a good inspiration. This red color, right? Just like use white monocoat plastic for aircraft skin, and print out a vinyl decal here and use that. But this is very classic. I really like the NASA red. So these are uses of color. You have this kind of, I don't know what this is, like kind of a medium value background. That's what it kind of says here. It looks kind of greenish gray to me, like a kind of charcoal gray. So it's interesting. If you use a medium background, they recommend using a dark font, like a black, right? So, and if you have a black background, they recommend using this white to gain the most contrast. So these are the colors. Looks pretty interesting. Yeah, these are no-goes. Like, you do not want to do these things, right? NASA here. You're doing all sorts of weird graphical edits, and NASA doesn't want you to use their logo like this. NASA, this logo type needs its space, right? Quite literally, like graphical space, not like space. I don't know, that's like a pun, but whatever. It needs its space, and you should not change the interior of it or the exterior right next to it, right? So these are no-goes. You don't want to turn it on its side. You don't want to italicize it. You don't want to do all these things. So the NASA logo type should be reproduced photographically. So photographically to me means like, it's like, you have a picture file, like a PNG or TIF file, and you insert that image into places. It's not like a font per se, right? This is not like a typable NASA font. Unfortunately, this is like a logo. So even though it's, letters in a logo, this is kind of one unit. You treat it as one unit and should not separate like the N from the A from the S, things like that. And I think this grid background allows you to be able to reproduce this logo if you really wanted to, right? This is like a kind of like a Cartesian grid here. So 3 units here by however many units like that. And you can reproduce it in theory, right? It takes a lot of work to get like these splines correct, but in theory it's possible with this much data around this logo type. This is kind of like, for objects that we design on a computer, we have CAD, right? So this is kind of like the CAD. It's like a technical drawing of this logo. So you can see, the proportions and how it moves and curves, what the slope is, right? Things like that. So it's very technical, and it's very much in line with NASA, right? Technological precision in that concept of unity. So that's that. Mission patches, other symbols, right? So these are kind of, this is interesting. So these are not conforming to any of those standards. It's a little bit more freeform, right? There's no like standardized design language for these, but emphasis that it deserves. So it's very one-off. So for each of these patches, they're pretty much one-off. This is kind of the seal, right? This is the traditional NASA seal. Yeah, this is like an official, very like formal kind of graphic. You really use this in like legal documents and things like that. And, here it says award presentations or formal events and activities, right? So this is a little bit more formal. So reproduction art logo type. This page contains camera ready reproduction artwork. So this is what? It's just NASA in a bunch of different sizes. But also this looks quite interesting, this composition on this page. There's a lot of white space here and here, but it feels pretty balanced to me, right? So there's a lot of weight here and it decreases as you go down, but I don't know, it just looks interesting. I could totally see this being like some sort of poster that you get for your room. I think it's quite interesting. It looks nice. It's also, you can like see the logo at different scales, which is also beneficial because the same geometry, the same design, scaled to different sizes gives a different impression. That's one of the things they teach you in graphic design is, enlarge it, see what it looks like. It changes your perspective. These are different ways to put the full form name of NASA. Same thing here, but with an address. So we're not too interested in this because we're not going to be putting this on our plane. At least I don't think I can write that small and put it on the vertical stabilizer. But this looks nice. This is the official seal. Again, this is called red. In case you don't know what red looks like. I'm kidding. But this is, that. This little letterhead. So if you're writing a letter, this is kind of how you want to organize your letter. It looks very modern, it looks kind of out of place here, but I'm sure they have their reasons, right? Like you have your main text along this 1-inch margin here coming down. So it's that. Center letterheads and envelopes. So not too concerned about that. I do, in these 2 pages, I really like the fact that they kind of put the logo in the corner. It makes it look kind of like a, I don't know, I think it just looks nice. Keeps the balance, right? So you have a lot of body text here and a single bold dark logo type here in the corner to kind of balance the sheet out. And yeah, I think it looks nice. There's not a lot of stuff down here, which is balanced because you don't want to be holding a piece of paper right here in the middle, right? Like when you're holding it up to read, you don't want to like be looking down there. So that's user interface kind of design here. That looks nice. This is kind of the large envelope, what it would look like. Looks pretty clean. Really like that. I like the little red, dark red here. It really makes it pop. Yeah, so this is like kind of news releases. Now, these are kind of like templates for NASA designers. I don't know if they still use this today, but at least in '76, this was their design intent. So, different, all sorts of different specifications for your color, your paper, formats, sizes, things like that. Yeah, here's what I was talking about. Helvetica. Helvetica is a great font. Everybody should be using Helvetica and not Times New Roman. Times New Roman, the only place where I see it being like very useful is on like print, right? So when you're on print, when you're on physical paper, and there's a lot of stuff to read, that's when you use Times New Roman. To me, right? The context matters. It feels very old school, very classical. So old paper books and things like that use Times New Roman. Go ahead and do that. But for things like website text and just in general, I guess, things that are scalable and you want to make an impression, Helvetica is the way to go, right? It's sans serif, which means that there's no squiggly bits hanging off the letters, which is clean, but it also looks very modern and attractive in that sense. So that's why I always use Helvetica or Arial. Arial's like the off-brand of Helvetica, but it's essentially the same font. This is a classic font. Even the bold version looks really nice here. It's a Helvetica Light versus Helvetica Medium, right? So, highly recommend it. Futura is an interesting font. I don't really find myself using it. It's not as, I guess, timeless as Helvetica. Helvetica is literally everywhere. Like, if you look at the New York metro system, the different signage that they have, like this is like, Times Central or Grand Central or whatever. They really like to use Helvetica there. And if you'll notice at airports, right, the signs at airports are oftentimes also in Helvetica because it looks very balanced and clean and modern and basically all the good characteristics you want in a font. That's why it's so widely used. And because of that, like you think of airports, you think of NASA, you think of subway stations, it's a lot of travel connotations, right? But it's also just overall a great font to use. So that's my pitch for using Helvetica. Not that we can use that here. If I did have a printer, I might try like graphic designing something on the computer and then printing it out. But I don't have a printer. This is just nice to know, like get a background and feel for and appreciation for graphic design. That's kind of the point of going through this. So Yeramin is like serif, finest of the classical typefaces, right? Stood the test of time. So ideal for high quality publications or those of a more permanent nature. Functions very well in large volume settings and will sustain reader attention. But it looks interesting. There's a lot of detail, right? Little squiggly bits hanging off the font. So these are just sample text. They're not really meant to be read down here. These are cover design, leaflets, and folders, right? So this is kind of graphic design in a nutshell. You create these real cool looking posters and things like that. I think these are quite nice. Tech briefs. So these are more technical journal publications, and how do you design your graphic for this, right? So this is kind of how they provide an example and things like that. NASA activities, NASA Langley. Langley is an interesting place, just off topic, but Langley has like an Air Force base and a NASA center, so it's like a huge aerospace research facility. It's like in Virginia or something like that. I like this. This is very clean. The future, and then you have like all these squiggly equations here, and NASA, the worm logotype there. I really like this image right here. This is like a planet, right? This is Earth, most likely. And you have NASA down here in the corner balancing all of this negative space, right? So you have black negative space here. It's you can't really call it white space because it's black, but a dash of white balancing this arc of our planet, right? So that looks really modern, very, very nice, very balanced. Apollo 11, space mathematics. Yeah, so these are kind of press related. Apollo 11 is kind of like it's a huge deal for NASA. That's why they probably use the serif font to make it, a more permanent nature, right? And so it looks very classic. It's like you look upon Apollo 11 with nostalgia, and so I think that really works here. So cover designs, title page designs, right? So press kits, directories. So this looks very modern. Again, this is like designed in the 70s, right? This was 76, so this is surprisingly clean. And I think what they might have been inspired by was kind of the Bauhaus school of design, which I've done a little reading on. Like, I've done a little research on that, but it's a German school of thought, and it's literally translates to the art, the school of building, right? Bauhaus, right? So it's quite functionalist, but also you want to design for mass production, and in a way fonts are kind of a product that is designed for mass use, because you have a ton of text everywhere. And so it's quite interesting, I think, to me. So you should treat fonts. If you ever designed a font, you'll know that it's quite difficult, and logos and things like that. Just designing a compelling graphic, right? So examples here. These are posters, broadsides. These are some interesting posters with an astronaut here. And you'll notice that the style has remained kind of constant, right? So you have your NASA logo type, the worm in the corner here, and that looks good. It looks very in line with all of these graphics here. So there's a common kind of brand image, right? So that's kind of the point here. The grid. If you've ever taken a graphic design course, you will know what the grid is. It's different kind of things like lines and compositions, right? How you can put things together and how to keep them aligned and look clean, right? So if you break things down, right, kind of the approach that I have to design like actual physical aircraft parts for my paper airplanes and gliders, they kind of follow this concept of the grid, right? So if you look at the red lines here, this is how you should space things out, right? You need a margin in between different columns, but also space between your header and your body text down here. So just things like that they're not, like, you might think that they're not important, but when you take this into the realm of physical objects, then it's like, okay, well, I can design very clean looking aircraft because the lines, they all click to a grid of some sort, right? With the vertical stabilizer, if you remember from 2 weeks ago, when I made this vertical stabilizer, well, can't see it now because I haven't really switched the camera back, but you'll know that I clicked it to the nearest centimeter, or I think we might have used centimeters. Yeah, it's it was in centimeters. It was like every 5, right? Every 4, and all the lengths, they kind of click into place. Granted, there are times when you want to break that grid, but you have to know when, right? And knowing when to break that grid composition, that's the mark of true, great graphic designer there. But this is kind of going into composition, right? You have your cover, interior formats. You want to keep your main image on this page aligned with the top of that and the bottom of that, body text here. Things like that, just keeping everything in line with each other. That's always a good kind of approach to making things look clean. That might not always yield in a balanced result, but it's always a good rule of thumb to follow. So there are all sorts of different grids, right? So you have this grid here, it's kind of like a bifold leaflet folder kind of page here. So you have your interior margin here, right? You don't want your text to be crammed up into the little crease where you fold your paper, because that's very hard to read, right? You can't really see it if it's like in a book, right? So you need a little bit of margin there, and that margin, it looks like it's about the same as the margin on the outside here. So where your thumb holds the page, you don't want your text going up until the very edge of the page, because you'll be holding it with your hand, with your fingers, and you'll be covering the text, right? So that's why this margin exists. And you want to keep it balanced, because there's a margin here, you need a margin inside, and it actually makes sense to place it on the inside because you don't want your text to be all the way to the center. Things like that. So I can spend like hours on this stuff, but I know you guys are more interested in kind of how I design stuff, and so I think if you're new here, I realize there are a couple more viewers now, but I am looking through this NASA graphics standards manual to get some inspiration for the way that we're going to apply some decals and graphics on our vertical stabilizers before we integrate the vertical stabilizers onto the actual aircraft, because right now it's a little bit easier to apply these decals because they're not installed. So it's kind of what the plan is. There are so many different types of just interior grid formats, I guess. So let's go on here. This is NASA signs, right? We don't really have a sign because we don't have a facility or a building or anything, but this is kind of how they would lay out their outside building signs here. So it looks very clean. Looks like what you would expect from a technologically advanced and precise center of excellence, NASA, right? So this is very clean. You'll notice that all the fonts are Helvetica, right? So this is Helvetica Medium, probably. It's not like a standard type font. It's like a boldened kind of medium font. This is likely a light Helvetica light font. It looks like it, at least to me. That's good. Next page here, directory, and so it's giving you examples of different signs, how to use NASA design language, right? So their design language is very much locked into Helvetica, making things look clean, using very simple but precise graphics. This is very, very nice. Motor vehicle identification, so this is like describing when to use black on gray versus white on gray, just the overall color here. So if you have a gray black car, then you should use white text to get the most contrast. Right, if you have a white car, obviously use a dark print to get that contrast to be visible, right? Alright, so motor vehicles, special vehicles, right? This one looks like it's wearing pants. You know that meme where it's like, if a dog wore pants, would it wear it like this or like this? This reminds me of that meme a little bit. Kind of looks like cars wearing jeans, like blue jeans down here. But if it's two-tone, different colors, right? The white, you want to maximize the contrast, so you want to use dark dark colors like red or black. And on this darker color here, which is blue, if you convert to grayscale, this blue is darker than this white. You should use a light font, right? So that's going to be white down here. It's very interesting. This is how they space it out. So this is getting to be a little bit more closer to what we want to try and learn from for our, logo or whatever decal application. This is for government use only. This is like, some text here, some text here, down here. This is the location, where it's based out of. So that's boldened, right? Because it gives it a little bit more emphasis. NASA worm logo right here. And so this is kind of like the different ratios, right? You have 3/4 here, 3 1/8 here, or 3 1/8, 3 7/8 here. I'm not sure how that works, but now I think it's a little bit interesting here. So I think that the difference would be like 6/8. That'd be like 3/4 of an inch here, little gap here. But anyways, this is like composition, but on physical objects instead of pages, right? So this is pretty boring, but I don't think we'll be doing this. But there's no logo here, but this is kind of what you would do. For certain circumstances where you want to separate the logo type from the identification configuration and position it also around the vehicle. Remaining identification elements remain on the front doors of the vehicle. So like if you have a giant van and you want to put the red logo type on the van and make it huge, but you still need to include this information, this is how you would do it, basically. And speaking of vans, this is different motor vehicles with the logo, the logo type applied. This looks very clean. Like, I'm not a huge automotive kind of person, but I think this looks great. If I ever had like a nice car or truck or van like this, then I would totally put NASA the way they did it here. It was very clean. Even though it's on a physical object and not on a page anymore, it's still quite nicely done. It's quite balanced. The red really stands out here, and some of the lighter colors here with the black font. I think that looks really nice. Aerospace Education Unit. This is a special purpose vehicle that offers wide exposure of the NASA Unified Visual Communications System. So they really designed their kind of branding, like, their graphic design and branding here. So warm gray, red with white, so it's very distinctive. This red van just grabs your attention, and you'll notice this immediately because that's a huge contrast there, right? This white on red look. And then you have, your detailing here, location, what this is, etc. This is finally what we want to look at. This is the most relevant part of this entire document. This document is what, like 60 pages, so apologies if this is like taking way too long, but we've been live for about an hour now. And I think this is quite important to get like a good understanding, this backing of how to apply these details, right? So this is pretty relevant to what we're doing. We'll get to this in a second. Just look at how much detail goes into this, right? Like I was looking at this the other day. I find it quite fascinating. This looks pretty boring to most people, but this is amazing. This is like, it's literally telling you all the details that you need to make something look like an official NASA vehicle, right? So look at this. The overall aircraft paint marking scheme normally consists of blue stripe down the middle of the fuselage sides, white fuselage top, white wings, gray fuselage bottom, FAA registration number, and other markings for exits, rescue, warning areas, etc. This scheme incorporates uniform logo type markings applicable to NASA-controlled aircraft. So this is basically what they do, right? You have, just going from nose to tail here. I'm not going to read the rest. You can read this on your own. This document is free on the web. You don't have to buy the book unless you want a physical copy, but this PDF is definitely free, so you can search it, graphics, NASA graphics standards manual, and it'll show up. But this is a lot of good information here. So from the nose here, anti-glare, flat, black painted panel, right? This nose strip right here, this black, it actually serves a functional purpose for reducing glare, right? When you have sunlight hitting your aircraft, you don't want it bouncing into the cockpit and blinding your pilots. That would not be good. That would be reducing visibility, and that's the safety concern. So I really appreciate that detail. I don't have that on my aircraft, but maybe I'll incorporate it next time, even though it's a glider. Blue stripe curves down, white stripe meets center of nose. So this blue stripe curves down, and then this white meets the center of the nose. So the tippity tip here, it meets that. So that's tiny, tiny details, but I think, I really appreciate that. So 2-inch yellow stripe around the main entrance door perimeter. I'm pretty sure that's for safety, right? You want to be alerted to the presence of an entrance to the aircraft and exit. 6-inch white stripe here, gray belly, 25-inch blue stripe, so that's about 2 feet, right? 2 feet high blue stripe here. White side force generator panels. Side force generator panels. Not really sure what those are, but they're white. So it might be like some sort of fairing here. I'm not really sure. So I don't know everything, but this is like an example of a question that I have. If there were a teacher to teach the ways of NASA graphics design. But yeah, unpainted, polished metal leading edge. That's actually like a defining characteristic of Gulfstream jets in general. I had a professor in college that worked at Jetstream or Gulfstream, not Jetstream. Jetstream is a brand of pen, but Gulfstream. I mean, they he he described their design philosophy for Gulfstream for these business jets with the twin engines in the back and the T-tail. They like to make the leading edge one continuous piece. And the reason for that is not necessarily functional, right? Because, that's quite impractical to have your entire leading edge be a slat of sorts, or a flap of sorts, but maybe it's functional. But they really like to make it look clean and uniform and one piece. So that's kind of their brand, right? Gulfstream jets, very clean, very elegant, professional business jets. I don't really like T-tails, but they do have T-tails. So, FAA registration number on your engine nacelle, right? This has to be very clear and very visible. If you fly a drone, like a personal drone, sorry, just got a comment in the chat here. Van looks great, sweet. Your audio is garbled a bit. Yeah, sorry about that. I haven't really changed my setup really too much. I still have 4K coming in from the full frame camera, but I changed my phone to the 1080p resolution, so hopefully that's better. But I'm not really sure, because if it's garbled, that means either my computer is struggling a little bit or my connection is not that great. So I apologize for that. It's really nothing that I can really do. It's kind of out of my control. So again, I apologize for that. Yeah, let's go through this. All right. So your engine nacelles have your FAA registration number. I was saying, like, if you have a drone of some sort, like a consumer grade drone that is heavier than, I think it's like 250 grams, you have to register it with the FAA, and you have to have this identification on your nacelle or plane or wherever. It just has to be very visible, right? So the way that they did it on this Gulfstream jet here is they placed it on the nacelle here. So in the future, if you're wondering, like, when I do work on RC planes in the future, inevitably, I don't know when, but in the future, I will have to use get registered with the FAA. I think the price is like $5 or something like that. It's very low, but you essentially get your name put on a list. You get a registration number, and that kind of ensures that you fly responsibly, because they know this is your airplane. Like, you should not crash it into any place. You should not try and cause damage or fly where you shouldn't be flying. Right? So that's the whole purpose of this. So getting to the tail, this is really the meat of what we want to look at. This is the red logo type flush left with new. Alright, so I think I'm back. The web page doesn't show any separation here, so I think that this might have solved the problem. So I had to restart the stream every now and then, so I apologize for that, but it is what it is. It's just what you have to do when your computer is running slow. Hope the audio is a little bit better now. Please give me feedback if it's all set. But I think that seemed to do the trick. We're at 7 megabytes per second again on our phone. So sorry about that, but we're back in business here. Got a new comment, but that's cool. Your instructor works for Gulfstream. My great aunt in California has a G650ER herself. It's black and white. That is insane. Your great aunt owns an aircraft? That's wow, that's incredible. Yes, crystal clear. Thank you for confirming that. I thought so, because look at the megabytes per second. If it's like less than 7, then it means it's really slow. There's something wrong. So I need to restart the stream. So hopefully it's all good now. But yeah, damn, she owns an aircraft. That's like millions of dollars, yo. G650ER. Wow, damn, that's incredible. It was a business expense. Dang, that's crazy. That's wild. I can't imagine owning an aircraft like that. That's just way. I might like fly it as a pilot, but that's not very realistic at this point. But yeah, my instructor, he was my senior design professor, first of all. So in our senior year, we have a capstone project where we design an aircraft according to the official contest from AIAA. So for our year, it was like a commuter prop plane, basically, as it is usually. It's not very fun. It's still an airplane. Don't get me wrong. It's still an airplane. Still interested, but it's just not very exciting. It's not like a business jet. It's not like it's not a commercial airliner. It's not a fighter jet, of course, because fighter jets, you can make up future sci-fi technologies and assume that they work and write your paper. Basically, the whole class is dedicated to writing this paper that describes your airplane. You might CAD it, like 3D model it in CAD and include pictures, but the actual calculations and analysis work is kind of what they're looking for. So you don't actually get to make anything. That's kind of not what senior design is about, at least for aerospace. So our capstone project in aerospace is quite boring, I would say. It's literally just a paper and a presentation. But if you were in mechanical engineering, for example, you would be actually physically fabricating objects, and you would do the analysis, of course, but you would also actually make something. So part of me is like, if I had to go back and do college, I'd probably pick mechanical engineering, because I'm really about the details and how to actually do something. There's this kind of saying that aerospace engineering is harder, but we're a lot more conceptual. We don't actually execute any of these things, right? It's actually interacting with the part itself, designing the details. That's kind of where I like to operate. But in any case, he was a professor for my the class, the senior design class, and he used to actually work on the G650. And I think there was like an accident that happened with the G650 where the landing gear, I want to say, it like collapsed. This is why I say like landing gear, they might like seem like afterthoughts, but in his reasoning, in his teachings, it really should be designed from the landing gear up, right? Aircraft should be designed from the landing gear up because they're designed to come back down to Earth. So, he worked on that aircraft program as a conceptual designer. So it's not what you think, what people think in general, where you sketch out designs and you might do a quick sketch here and there, but you don't have to be an artist in that sense to be a conceptual designer. At Gulfstream, at these huge OEMs where you're designing aircraft, you're not really doing, design in the sense of automotive design, designing how it looks, right? That's not what you're doing. What you're doing is you're optimizing the overall aircraft for a specific mission. So, he drilled that into us, and it kind of killed my passion for designing aircraft a little bit, because I was under the impression that if you could draw, then you could design aircraft. And there are some companies that operate like that. For example, Skilled Composites, which is owned by, I think, Northrop Grumman nowadays. Burt Rutan is a famous aircraft designer. He designs these weird looking but also elegant composite aircraft, and they're usually all white. Just search up some of their prototypes. They're very clean looking and a huge inspiration to aviation geeks or av geeks. So that's a whole different world, right? So if you design business jets and fighter jets, you don't really, there's really no single visionary designer nowadays, right? It might have been true back in the 70s and 80s when the Skunk Works were coming into play, the 50s 60s with Kelly Johnson and Ben Rich. I think they were Skunk Works systems engineers, so they really designed the overall system to work together. But yeah, it's very interesting. He worked on the G650, and the aircraft had an accident on the runway. It didn't even fly yet. I think it was either something with the landing gear or an aero surface. I think it might have been like the flaps or something. It failed, and it caused a huge crash and the death of the test pilot. So that was like a huge kind of turning point for my professor, and he actually, after that event, he decided to come into academia and teach our class, because he wants to make sure that future systems engineers and they have a concept of safety in their mind. And he made it all inspirational and emotional in that lecture. But it is kind of what it is. So he is now teaching at the University of Illinois. He is a capstone project teacher, and he also is like a research professor, so he has a bunch of research projects going on. But he's very much kind of, I want to say, like, I'm kind of like him in some ways, right, with the attention to detail and just overall passion for airplanes. But in other ways, he is quite different. He is like very conceptual designer, like look at the systems, look at the overall propulsion. Is it enough thrust? Is it enough wing area? Things like that. He's like a systems level guy. I'm more of a part level guy. So that's kind of our difference. But we all have a deep appreciation for we both have a deep appreciation for aircraft. So that's something that we definitely both have in common. And if you ever visit his office, you might see like different airplane models, and he's also into nice stationary items, right? For example, this pencil right here is Rotring. It's we like good things. We just like good things. Like we use fountain pens and things like that. Got several more comments here from Benjamin Rogers. It was a business expense. I also have an uncle who had a Cessna. He passed due to a heart attack on his way to fly his plane. So I guess that's kind of lucky for my aunt, because she was scheduled to fly with him. That's insane, dude. I don't know if that's serendipity or luck or anything, but man, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's really tough. But at least he died, at least he passed on his way to do something that he really loved, right? So that's good. The tail stabilizers had problems on the G650. Yeah, I wasn't sure like exactly what the problem was. I'm sure he explained it in class, but I just don't remember. I just don't. It's been almost 2 years now since I took that class, and over 2.5, I would say 2.5 years, almost 3 years. Jeez, time flies. Yeah, it's crazy. It just crashed. It was a flight test problem. The G650 had a lot of issues, and as a conceptual designer who worked on that project, that's got to be pretty painful, right? See your airplane crash like that. Gulfstream, for certain businesses, use owners, has a trade-in program. My great aunt wants to get the G700 since the 650 series had issues. Yes, that they had to come up with something to replace it, right? It's kind of like that company's 737 Max issue. But overall, they make really nice business jets, I would say. It's just, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the T-tail configuration, but I realize, actually, technically, aerodynamically, it's supposed to be more efficient than, keeping it on the actual fuselage empennage tail here. And the reason for that, I can get into that, but that's going to be another video or stream or whatever. It's the basic idea behind why this T-tail is more efficient is that it's farther away from the main wing. We'll get into like the specifics, and in a specific, I don't know, like aerodynamics kind of crash course stream or something like that, but yeah, it is what it is. So I don't know, I'm saying it's starting to grow on me a little bit. I just never really liked it in college. I never really preferred the T-tail configuration, but then again, I am more of a fighter aircraft kind of guy, so this kind of makes sense. I want an Ariane AS2. Yeah, that's I don't know what that plane looks like, but I could sure do a search right now, or not. I guess not. Actually, just kidding. I'm gonna have to search this. This is what, an Ariane AS2. So that's like Ariane AS2 supersonic business jet. Oh, that's insane, dude. This gotta be hella expensive. Is this thing even real yet, or is this still a concept? I'm curious. Oh, I don't know if you guys have seen the new is a supersonic business jet. Yeah, I kind of figured. It looks, the Delta looks really fast, right? But also, I think recently, Boom Supersonic, they released their prototype designs, and it looks freaking amazing. I actually really like the design here. This is an aerospace startup company, XB-1. They just laid the factory in Florida. Yeah, this is quite nice. The only thing I don't really like about this plane are the landing gear, but I realize that they are constrained by space, right? You have your engines out here. You need to stow your wheels and landing gear somewhere, so it has to come out from the middle. So it looks weird, but I think it really serves its purpose. The tri-engine configuration looks really hella sleek. And just overall, their presentation was amazing. This is like, if I had to find another job, I would probably apply to Boom Supersonic here, but I don't know if I have the proper experience to do so. This is a very interesting company that might actually replace the Concorde. AS2 is projected to be around $120 million. That's insane. I don't have that kind of money, but maybe you do, and invite me for a flight when you have that plane. Yeah, these are some interesting aircraft. They're using very cutting edge technologies, right? Your NACA ducts, special engine technology, ECS, structural components, and it's just very high tech. Going fast is very demanding. If you couldn't tell already, it's amazing the technology behind supersonic aircraft, right? Mach 1.4. I wish, I wish I had my own airplane, but for me, I feel like an ultralight is about where I'm gonna end up. Planes are really expensive, so. QSST is fascinating. You have the quiet supersonic transport. I think that one's designed by Lockheed. I want to say Lockheed Martin, in conjunction with NASA. I think this is like QSST. Yeah, this thing looks very strange. I'm not sure if I really like it. It looks like, yeah, I'm sure these little control surfaces serve a purpose, right? It just looks very strange to me. I don't know what's happening. I think it's like to mitigate shock waves and things like that when you go supersonic. So that's a whole another can of worms in itself. So sorry to get off topic here, but I think it's important to keep passion alive, right? To get distracted by these things and to talk about these things. But where else are you going to talk about airplanes like that? So next page here is actually quite interesting as well. You'll see different examples of different aircraft where you have this logo application, right? So you have your Grumman Gulfstream 1. It's a prop plane. This is the Lockheed P3, not Poseidon. This is a prop plane as well. This is a naval aircraft, I believe. P is for pursuit. Not sure. Yeah, sorry about that. Not really familiar with Lockheed's P3 here. Northrop T-38. So I actually recently on my Instagram I posted a picture of this T-38 Talon, and it looks quite nice, right? It has this back curve here for area ruling. It looks very sleek, very aerodynamic. I think we can take some inspiration for our Astra M1 prototype from this vertical stabilizer because it is almost the shape that we have. Has this little logo type here. You might do a Y13A and 02 or M1 designation here instead of all numbers, right? We might do something like that. This is very close to what we want. This is not necessarily that close because the aspect ratio is a little bit different. It's swept a lot more also, so there's a lot more area in the front here. This is a Lockheed F-106. I think it's like Convair or something. F-104, F-106. I'm not too familiar with the Century series of fighter aircraft, but this is an interesting design from like the 60s, 70s. Lockheed F-104. This aircraft is iconic. This is the Starfighter. Has a very stubby wing, right? It's a very low aspect ratio wing, but you need that low aspect ratio to be able to fly super fast. There's like a shock cone here. This cone causes oblique shocks to compress the air to slow it down for the engines. The engines are integrated into the aircraft back here, so you don't really see the nozzle all that much. It's literally just the aircraft fuselage here. But this is very clean, very beautiful. Again, this is in the opening scene of Ace Combat 7, so that's another reason why this is a little bit close to my heart. It's a great game, highly recommend. The opening scene is so inspirational for aviation geeks. Mirror finish F-104. This is a Beech C-45 down here. This is a very strange looking aircraft. I don't know where the numbers went, but I guess that's just 6 right there. the 2 numbers to 2 digits after that just kind of disappeared. But this is a prop plane with a kind of oval shaped vertical stabilizer, kind of interesting. Beech Queen Air 60. This is like another prop plane. This is like it's kind of like a more casual, I would say, aircraft, right? So you could possibly own one of these and fly out of an airfield or something like that. Very small scale compared to some of these other planes here. You have a helicopter here, which I don't really care about, but this is a Bell UH-1B. Not really familiar with helicopters, but that's how you would apply the decal there. So I think the most relevant for us is the T-38 here. We're probably going to put it, left aligned, close to the leading edge, away from the trailing edge flaps here. I think it's like aligned right up until that. This is a leading edge glove. Right, so if we zoom in a little bit, AC7 JPEG dog, yeah. That's a funny meme. JPEG dog is inspired from one of the creator's pets that passed away. So he digitized him and put him into the cutscene. Really cool. But yeah, this is nice. I guess this is kind of like leading edge glove here. So in real life, this would probably be like bare metal, because high pressure area, you might be like thermal issues. So you want to not put paint on that leading edge. Same with the wing leading edge here. Usually it's all metal, even on commercial aircraft. It's also, I think, it might also function as kind of a heater, right? So you can, it's like a de-icing feature. So if your aircraft flies through clouds, flies through moisture, and it's really cold, you can actually heat up the leading edge to melt some of that ice formation. So this is kind of how they did it. They have this leading edge here that takes up a little bit of margin here, and this goes right up until the tail surface here that moves. This is the rudder, so it might do something similar to that. That's good inspiration here. Space shuttle, very iconic aircraft or spacecraft. This is kind of where my love for aviation and space and aerospace technology really started. I was watching a movie called Armageddon. You might have heard of that. When I was a kid, I watched Armageddon so many times. I was just like, wow, that is a cool space shuttle. But it wasn't this space shuttle, but it was like a fictional derivative, the X-71. I think it's like a super shuttle or something. I can pull up an image here real quick. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's this page right here. Sorry, I already have it. So X-71 super shuttle. This is in Armageddon. I think this is like kind of where I kind of awoke to the beauty of things that go fast and fly fast, and I really like this spacecraft when I was a kid. This is kind of what it looks like. It has little canards in the front, dual boosters mounted on the nacelles like that, or on the fuselage there. Well, in case you don't know, that movie was quite outlandish. You're training oil drillers to go to an asteroid to blow it up and save Earth. But I really liked it as a kid. It was pretty fun to watch. All the explosions and stuff. But anyways, it's very clean, very no vertical stabilizer decals, but it's on the fuselage here. So I gotta stay on track here. I think this is about it. We're not really designing spacecraft, so this is not really relevant to us, but this again looks very on brand with NASA, very, very clean looking. The red on white is very distinctive. Certificates and awards, we're not really handing those out. So, but official seal here, and clean graphic design as usual. And vinyls and decals, right? So these are kind of like stickers. If you design an all-in-one sticker, this is how you would have the logo appear. Helvetica Light probably here. So pretty balanced, looks good. And apparel, right? So if you have clothing that has this patch, this is how you should place it. Right shoulder, right? So like right here, that would be where you would put it. I think like there was in college I attended a career fair, and I think one of the recommendations was to put your name tag on the right chest, above your right, nipple, I guess. I just have to say it, but anyways, it's actually quite interesting, the psychology behind that, because people read, most languages flow from left to right. So you want to put your name tag on the left side of your body, facing you, right? So for you, that would be your right side. So this is kind of in line with that kind of standard, to make it user friendly and approachable and readable, right? So this right here, this is University of Illinois. This shirt right here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's not really done correctly. It should be on this side, but whatever. We're not NASA, we're just a aerospace school. So anyways, now this looks pretty clean, this red on white lab coat. So overall, this is kind of the graphic standards, and with that, I went through the entire manual, but feel free to download this and look at it yourself. it's very good for inspiration, especially like for aircraft marking decals and how to position things and the special margins and things like that. So with that said, I think I'm gonna go back to actually working on our project. We went on a huge tangent today, so I am apologizing for that. It's a Friday. I just, we're getting back into the swing of things. I'm not necessarily interested in making too much progress. I just want to do quality work. It might be a little bit of progress, but it'll be good quality. So and what I'm going to do is just practice, my lettering skills and kind of graphic marking skills, because I don't have a printer with me, so I can't design graphics on the computer and then print it out. I should get a printer. I really should get a printer because it's really relevant to this hobby, and just overall it's a useful tool. But let's see here. So I did do some conceptual sketches for the graphics that are going on this vertical stabilizer. This is a concept for, sorry, let me just zoom out a little bit so you guys can see more my desk. Yeah. Alright, so it's a little better, but there's a little bit of stuff on that side. Just want to crop that out. There we go. This should be a little bit better. Concept design, just ignore that. F-16. I still need to work on that F-16. Jeez. It's been ages. These are concept sketches of the actual aircraft that I'm doing. So the approach that I'm taking is a little bit more automotive in nature. Like, it's a little more casual than like official aircraft designers. But then again, I'm not working for a company. I'm doing this for fun, so it kind of makes sense. Some concepts for some mechanisms and structures. Oh yeah, here it is. This is kind of the graphics that I was working on and designing, but I don't think I'll necessarily go with that. I'm working on some kind of typefaces here, I guess, or logo types again. Let's see here. Just put something heavy to keep it from moving. This is kind of what I had in mind. Just take a sip of water real quick. I am caffeinated today, but I don't have soda with me. I'm trying to cut down on soda. Drink more water. Well, that's good. I'm just talking to you guys and getting back into the swing of things. I think that's really what this stream is good for, in addition to making a little bit of progress here. So this is some concepts for integration down here, so you can probably ignore that because I don't know if we'll get to that today. We're at 1.5 hours, so I have like an hour left, I want to say. No, half an hour, 40 minutes left for the standard time. I might do a stream or two over the weekend, depending on how busy I am. I do have to work over the weekend, so we'll see, but definitely at least another stream this weekend. So, and it might not be just 2 hours, it might go long. Another comment here, HP 9000 series is great. I own the 910, works with Alexa, Google Assistant, and can order ink automatically when it runs low, or Canon for photo quality pictures. Yeah, I want to get like an all-in-one printer so that I can print, because I'm into photography, so I do want to try and print some of my works, but I want like an economical solution and decent quality, so maybe a laser printer or something like that, but I'll have to look into that later. I'm trying to cut down on spending this year as well. Just trying to save up for a place. That'd be nice. There's more, I think. No, that's it. So that's the front there. Yeah. Okay. kind of what we have. I think we're gonna go with Astra, and then maybe like an M1 down here, so it'd be like a kind of like that. This is very wishy-washy, but M1. So the 1 by itself would look like an I. That's why I'm giving it a little bit of serif, right? So a little bit of that little squiggly bit, make it look more like a 1. So this could be an option. You could put M1 under Y13A, but that I don't think that will necessarily make a lot of sense. This is my channel, that is true, but you don't really see companies putting their logo on the plane, right? But I don't know, this looks interesting, I guess. I think I would prefer Astra M1. This is more applicable to the actual project, right? For the M2 series or prototype, I'll do 2, etc. This makes more sense contextually. But I also want to put Y13A somewhere on this aircraft. I don't know where. But I think for the vertical stabilizers, definitely the text is good. I also, I guess the original Astra, let me grab it real quick. I'll be right back. Just slide back here and grab this display model. In the past, this is kind of what I've done. I've put a logo there, my logo, as well as Y13A symbol right there, or lettering. You notice that it's kind of done the same way as we're doing right now. Also on this other side we have Astra and kind of a visual logo type. So I'm just checking if there's a little bit of lag. I think the video is lagging a little bit, so I apologize for that, but that's kind of what I did. I really like this kind of look, this little graphic here, but I'm not sure if I want to keep it around or move to a more modern kind of Astra and then M1. So I think this looks cleaner and there's less variability, right? Because I think I drew it really well here, but it's really hard to reproduce, right? So if we try and draw that again, it's like what? It's like that. It's like a little pointy bit there. And then yeah, so I don't know if I can reproduce that, but it sure looks nice on this original prototype. But I think I'll just keep it like that. This original, I don't know what the circle is for. I think it's like for cohesiveness, but it could also stand for M0. Like the original design is not really intended for that, but it could be. I guess you could explain it like that. But yeah, this is interesting. We want to design something new. I want to try something new because this is a new prototype and I'm kind of approaching this in a different way. Let me see real quick. The R is okay. Yeah, the R was distinct on the OG Astra design, meaning that this stroke right here was separate, so it would look more something like this, right? So you have your A there, A, S, T, R, something like that, A, which I think that looks a little confusing, I think keeping it clean here would look okay. This is like readable, I guess, but it's also minimal. Or we could, do it separately, right? A S T R A, like that. Or actually, I meant separate, right? So it's like kind of like that. So went a little overboard there. Sorry, this is boring, but something like that, which looks weird. I think it would look better connected, but it's just between this or this. I think this looks a little bit better. Just need to make it readable. AS. And this is like a kind of curved variant here. And everything's in line. So something like that, and then you just like M1 right aligned or left aligned here. For a vertical stabilizer like this. So imagine something like that. I should give it some space there. That's the control surface. That's the leading edge glove. It's the top. So kind of something like that, right? Just a rough idea. And then on the left side with a tail that goes like that, you just do Astra M1. So this isn't great, this isn't perfect, but you get the idea. It's a line up along that edge with a little margin there and a little clean like that. This is the general idea. I might put like Y13A on like a panel underneath here or something like that. Well, my branding isn't really that important, but I do need to put the name of the aircraft on the actual aircraft, so it's kind of the thought behind that. Spent 2 hours. We're gonna spend like a whole session today just decorating on decals, not decorating. There's a difference. This is very intentional, very purposeful. So this is the right vertical stabilizer. This is the left. Again, so for these vertical stabilizers, in case you guys don't know, this is done kind of the same approach. Made a double layered cardstock interior here in white, and then wrapped the gray around that. The white is also wrapped around a central kind of straw spar-ish. So this gives it a little bit of thickness, so it kind of tapers down from a thick base to a thin tip here. It's a beautiful detail, I think, for wings and for surfaces in general. So this will be actually compressed in a little bit, so it'll be more subtle, because this is going to be fit inside the thing here, the straw, right? So we'll figure that out. But right now, let's get the decal going. We really need to make some progress here. 15 minutes until 2 hours. Alright, so the way I planned it was I was gonna use a tape on some flat surface. I use this. I suppose it's not going to be very clear, but I think it'll get the job done. Can't actually tape the paper, because that'll, when you take it off, it's going to rip the or actually, I think the way I've done it before was okay, yeah, let's do that instead. This is not great. It's not a good idea. Alright, so you have your sample white sheet of paper here that you don't care too much about. There's a lot of sketches on this. Oh, ow, that hurt. Okay. Alright, so what we do, I'll put this to the side for ideas. Sorry about that, just moving some things up to the side. What we're going to do is apply a little strip of tape down here. It's kind of like a sacrificial layer. There, put it down here. Really doesn't matter, I guess, where. It's just to kind of tape this surface down. Really hard to tell where the seam is. That's why white is such a great color to make the aircraft out of, because you don't really see the tape. It looks all one continuous surface. Okay, so I think this is good. And then we have our actual piece that we're going to use as the decal. I'm going to make it a little bit long. So we need a little bit hanging off the edge here. So I'm going to just briefly trace the general idea of the shape. I probably should have done that before I put the tape down. Dang. Alright. I'll just put another piece over this. Okay. Looks pretty clean, pretty good. pretty good. Now comes the important part, is to seal this up so we don't get any interference. Once you put this down, you can't really pull it back up unless you want to erase the graphite. I don't think I'm going to draw in the leading edge glove. I'm just going to assume the gap there, the margin goes as we go. Okay. This should be almost done. Alright, so I think we should be back now. 7 megabytes, that looks about nominal. It's not a huge amount of lag, but I think this is why you gotta be careful. This might be useful for structural part, but for decal work, it's not really ideal. I have to try this again. Okay, I think this should be enough. This should be enough. Now, for the actual decal, what we're gonna do is we're gonna place this. You see, like, this is why we place the extra layers here, so that I don't actually get the let's raise the exposure a little bit here. So we don't actually pick up the graphite marking here. We want it at about 1/2, but we also need to account for the fact that this straw is going to be here. So you can't put it like too close to that. So between the top of the straw and the top of the vertical stabilizer, this is about 4. So I could do maybe 2, so that's about here. I'll just mark it out the front here, about 2 here. It's important that you align this, that you don't get alignment problems when you place the decal on. Okay, and then this is where the fun part begins. Zoom in a little bit here for you guys. So I'm a little bit nervous, not gonna lie. But I'm gonna try our best to letter this in. I think I'm gonna go with the angular. That last A looks a little bit squished, but I think for the most part it looks okay. I can actually move this decal forward a little bit. That's the other nice thing about this strategy, is that you can actually erase. So you try again, actually, right here, for example. Let's try applying this decal again. Just gotta be a little smaller this time. I don't know why I did the little bit there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think we leave the bottom serif out. That actually looks a little bit cleaner. But it might not look all that great on camera, but this is looking pretty good to me in person here. Okay, I think we're ready. Actually, before we do that, let's see how this looks with an orange bit here. And that looks okay. Looks decently balanced. You might slice the tube like that, the straw like that, to give it an aerodynamic look. And that's pretty good looking. Okay, and we marked out kind of where we're gonna put the tape on. So I think this is all set to go. The only thing we have to do now is apply a protective layer on top. So now you can't erase it because it's not that layer. Now you can peel it off the bottom there and kind of align it here. On the actual vertical stabilizer. That looks pretty aligned to me. So I'm going to press it in. And to minimize this amount of tape that you use, you could actually trim it. So I'm going to do that right about now. Just fold it along that line and do a trim. Reduces the amount of tape hanging off here. Improves the overall aesthetic quality. Even with the tailpiece here, the fairing that's going to hold it in place, I think it looks quite nice. It's kind of a preview for what the final product will look like. But that decal is nice and it won't smudge. I used to just draw on the actual vertical stabilizer, but I've come up with all these processes to get a better, cleaner result. So please feel free to use that learning if you want. But it's kind of the way I do it right here. So what's also good about this is that I could technically, let me just get my iPad real quick here and just erase some of the backside information here. Okay. Let me just get my iPad, BRB. case you guys don't know, I really like to use this tool. It's called Trace Table. But if you don't import any image, you're actually able to just keep it white and use it as a trace table to get the geometry that you need. I don't want to write on the iPad too much, but you just want to pick out the important vertices here. And then that's it. That's all you need it for. It was very quick, but you could also use your phone for this. You just need a white screen, and you should be able to set there. There we go. Okay, now, so we have a series of points. We just need to draw out the stabilizer again. Sorry if you guys can't see. Zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so we have our vertical stabilizer here, and what we want to do is the same thing that we did to the other side. I just gotta tape this to seal it up. I don't need to cover that little corner. This isn't actually a part either, so it doesn't really have to be fully covered. But it has to be covered enough so that we can actually use it for decal work. Oof, that's not good. I cut into the paper a little bit. I could use a scissor for this. I just don't like getting tape stuck in my scissors. This is an exception, I guess. This is why I hate little strips of tape to get everywhere, to cling everywhere. Okay, and we want our actual decal piece of tape here. It's like about 0.5 centimeters down. So. Okay, so you have the piece of tape applied. I want to figure out where to do that again. So that's what, half of that, 2 centimeters up. That's about right here, that's where the text should end. And use the other as a guide for how tall the letter is. 0.4 centimeters. Yeah, that's about right. That's not particularly pleasing. Precision work here. And then the M1 would be aligned with this character here. A then M here. So 1 is an interesting character. It's like kind of thin. So I'll have to like Oh, it almost looks like it's bolded, but I think it looks pretty good. Alright, I think that's good for this decal. Oh my goodness, where did the lead go? Yeah, that's not good. Pencil's jammed. That didn't work. Alright, yeah, I need to unjam this pencil real quick. Sorry, I got. I'll do that. You know what I think happened? It's the clutch. It's not engaging it because there's too much graphite dust. Because it's still quite a big. Sorry, I just gotta debug this. There we go, fixed it. Okay. That should be good. And yeah, I just need to seal it up now. Okay. Seal it up like that. Going over today. Sorry, guys. I swear this is the last thing we'll probably do today before actually integrating the structure tomorrow. So this is good. This is looking good. And then the right side is going to be right here. I'm going to measure 0.5 centimeter down. I'm just comparing both of them. This one looks like it's a little bit close. Let's move it forward a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. Just changing the rotation slightly. that about did it. Just gonna trim this leading edge here. We'll add waterproofing and final layering in a separate session, but this is looking pretty good. We have our two vertical stabilizers all done. Yeah, this is looking quite nice. That's going to be one nice vertical stabilizer. Let's switch views here. Show you guys the view of it on the actual aircraft here. You have to bear with me here. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be curved out like that. So it looks pretty good, I would say. This bottom bit is going to be covered by orange, of course. So we'll integrate this all either tomorrow or the session after. There's a lot of steps left. You just have to build it out. And yeah, we are almost there. We are almost there. After the vertical stabilizers, I think there's just some minor paneling things left here and there, and we should be all set after that. But thanks for tuning in today. It's been good. Didn't make too much physical progress, but I did get to connect with you guys again after a long 2-week hiatus. Let's see here what happened. My bad. Oh, okay. Didn't notice that, but right, because I did not change this. Maybe I'll click to that. And then lock this. Sorry about that. I did not notice that my other camera was minimized there. I think it's because when I changed from 4K to 1080p, it shrinks the size of the window, so apologies for that. But should be all set now. Yeah, this has been good. Just gotta go back here real quick. But we got our vertical stabilizers all done today. Just applying the decals, just walking through some of the design principles that NASA uses, which is kind of like a inspiration to me, at least. And we apply the decals here. It looks pretty clean, looks pretty good. And the next step really is to integrate this. I've been talking about that for weeks now, but really is almost here. The time is now fast approaching for us to integrate this into the tail and mount the tail onto the fuselage. And that will be one of the final steps of this project. After that, I'll just do some paneling, probably off camera, off stream, and I think we're about ready to produce like a final video for it. Just a summary video and a flight test video eventually. Not right now because it's snowy outside, but it's been real. This has been such an involved project. I'm so proud of how much I've done for it. And you should be proud. Don't be afraid to be proud of your projects. It's literally what motivates you. At least for me, it does. It's good motivation to continue. Creating beautiful things is by creating beautiful things. So just inspire and keep that cycle going. And that's kind of the goal here, is to provide some of that kick, right, that inspiration, so that you guys can go out and do the same and make great things. But that's pretty much it from me this week. It's Friday at least. I might do another stream tomorrow or Sunday, so Saturday or Sunday, depending on what I need to do for work. And I really appreciate you guys sticking around. I know it's been like 2 weeks of silence, so I apologize for that, but really needed to spend time with family and celebrate the holidays. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will catch you guys in